Hi all, this is True Crime with Tiff Klein, giving criminals the disrespect they deserve. Tonight I have a very special guest on my show, Miss Joanne Lowitzer. You may recognize her if you go to CrimeCon. She had a daughter, Ali, who went missing in 2010, and she's on my podcast tonight to tell us who Ali was and to tell us the story of Ali, what happened, where she's at with the case today. And I don't want to talk for her, so I'm going to let her tell the story. She's a phenomenal woman. She's such a light. I'm so grateful that I got to meet her this year at CrimeCon Vegas. She was set up with pictures of Ali everywhere. And the first thing I noticed about Ali in Denver was her eyes, piercing, beautiful eyes. And something kept drawing me to her. So I put her photo up on my wall at home in my office. And she's actually right in the middle of all of my CrimeCon stuff hanging up. And that was one thing my mom said when she met Joanne at CrimeCon. She immediately recognized Ali in her eyes and said she was beautiful. And if you see her photo, I know you'll feel the same way. I can't wait to learn more about Ali and things that she had accomplished, things that she wanted to accomplish, and just who she was. We have to remember cold cases aren't dead cases, and cold cases aren't just cases. These are people. This is real life. They are people. They were people. And keep that the forefront of your mind. And we're here tonight to talk about Ali and raise awareness on what happened. And if you know something, please say something. But we may have another guest joining us shortly, Anna from the Kitchen Research Table. So she will be chiming in at some point. And without further ado, Miss Joanne, I will let you start. And again, thank you for joining me on my podcast tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was my pleasure also to meet you in person. And I can tell just from your other podcasts and from your social media posts that you're just a real down-to-earth person and want to bring awareness to cases like my daughter's. And it's very much appreciated by families like mine.
You're very welcome. I just appreciate you talking because, again, I've seen Ali, but I want to know Ali. But yeah, if you want to start us off and just, go back to the beginning or tell us where you're at now, you can start wherever you'd like.
Okay. Well, I guess let's start off by just giving you basically what happened. On April 26th of 2010, it was a typical Monday. And that morning, it was a Monday morning, and I was getting ready for work and trying to wake Ali up for her to get ready for school. And the usual, she waited till the last minute, threw on her clothes and ran out the door, to go to the bus. And I didn't see what she had on that day because I was getting myself ready for work. She just said, bye, I'm going to the bus, and ran out the door. And the only thing that was different that day is she texted me from school throughout the day, and she wasn't supposed to be doing that. But I mean, what kids didn't do that had a cell phone? At first she was asking if she could stay after school to make up some work with one of her teachers. And, my concern was if she wasn't going to ride the bus home, how was she going to get home? Would she be there till 5:00 until I got off work and I came and picked her up? Or were there other kids, that were also staying after school where they could give her a ride home? So it was like a logistical problem, or concern, I guess. And then she texted back and said that, no, that's not going to happen because that teacher can't stay after school. So I'm like, okay, I'll see you at home then. And a little while later, she asked me if she could walk to work after school to go pick up her paycheck. And I said, no, just wait till I get home. Back then I worked until 5:00, and typically I'd get home around 5:20, 5:30. And she's like, well, I also want to see if I can work, please. She started begging at the time. And I'm like, no, just wait till I get home, because normally my mother would be over here at my house and would have taken her up to work with no problem. But that day, my mom was in Pasadena with a couple of her girlfriends visiting. So she wasn't able to be at my house after school. So, I told Ali to just wait until I got home and I would take her to go pick up her paycheck. And she just begged and begged and begged, because she also wanted to work. And it was her very first job. She had just turned 16 that February, and this was April. And she had 2 other paychecks, but one of them had bounced. So Allie's dad, John, had to have a quote unquote talk with the owner of the Burger Barn, after we had to pay fees at the bank and all that stuff for a bounce check. And so she was very adamant about picking up her paycheck. And, after much begging and texting and calling and all kinds of stuff, I finally gave in and I told her, okay. And she said, I promise I'll be careful. I'll go straight there. I'll text you and let you know if I'm going to work or if I'm just going to pick up my paycheck. And, so we set plans that she was going to walk up there, go straight there and, and probably work. And I got home and I hadn't heard from her yet, which I thought was kind of strange because she told me that she would text me whenever she got there. And it's like less than a quarter of a mile walk from my house to the Burger Barn. And it's basically a straight shot. You come out of the neighborhood, you walk down one street, and then she would have hooked a left into a shopping strip and walked in front of several businesses. And that's where the Burger Barn was. And yeah, I know I'm kind of rambling on.
No, it's fine. So you said she wanted to go to work. It was less than a quarter of a mile. It was a straight path and she got to work. Well, at least you thought she got to work and you'd never heard from her after that last conversation that she would check in when she got there.
Yeah. So I got home from work and I hadn't heard from her and I thought it was really strange. So I sent her a text message and, basically it's been 16 years. So the exact wording is not going to be spot on, but, basically that, you're not here. I hadn't heard from you. So I'm guessing that you got to work and, let me know when you get off and I'll come pick you up. And
what time was that around?
that was probably about 5:30. And, I didn't really know, because if she was working, then she was cooking, because when she would come home from work, she'd smell like hamburgers and French fries. And, she said that she loved to cook. But I didn't hear back from her. So in the back of my mind, I was assuming that she was at work and she was cooking and wasn't able to stop and text me. And so some more time went by and I texted her again because, again, it was kind of strange that I hadn't heard anything back from her. And that's when I just started just having a funny feeling because that is very much not like her to not respond because she was always on her phone. And, so my instinct was, that there's something wrong. But I pushed it down and deep inside of me. And I'm like, no, she's just busy. And, so I texted her again and no answer. And so finally it was before 9:00 because I remember in the past, they would close down at around 9:00 and clean up. And then I would go pick her up. So I decided it was like 10 minutes till 9, I think. I decided to drive up there. And when I pulled in front of the restaurant, the lights were out and there was nobody there.
Oh my God.
And that's when, my mind started thinking all kinds of things.
I just couldn't imagine that feeling because you had the feeling the whole time and then it kind of confirmed your intuition. And I would imagine, like, it just seems like from everything you said, the whole day didn't go as it usually does. From her taking a walk to work for the first time, your mom not being home, her not answering her phone, and then you're met with the lights off. That must have been terrifying.
It was. It was terrifying because, that from the minute that I had that feeling inside, I tried to stop myself from feeling that way, just, telling myself that, no, there's nothing wrong. That she's just busy. I'm not going to be that crazy mom that, thinks that, something bad has happened and something bad did happen. And
what was the first thing you did when you got to the restaurant and realized they were closed? Like, did you immediately call somebody or try to call her again? Like, what was your first reaction?
You know what? I don't remember if I tried to call her phone or not. I always go to the memory of calling her dad. And, I called him and, of course I'm already crying because, she's not where she says she was going to be. And, of course he's thinking that I'm the typical overreacting female and, trying to calm me down and, trying to make me think, rational things.
Mhm. Yep.
And, my gut was still, my gut was still telling me things and I didn't want to believe it, because things like that only happen in the movies, or on TV, and it doesn't happen in real life, that you get somewhere and you can't find your child. And so I didn't want to believe that that was really happening. And, so I talked to John and, we agreed that maybe she went to work to pick up her paycheck and got it or did not get it and then decided to maybe walk to her boyfriend's house. And so I drove over to his house and I remembered where he lived because I had just taken him home the day before. And it wasn't too terribly far, but I just felt like it was too far that she would want to have walked.
Mhm.
And
Is
so
that
I
something
walked.
she would have normally done? Like, has she walked there before, or would she have told you that she was heading there?
No, she had never walked to his house before. He was in a completely different neighborhood. There was a connecting street, but it was a 4-lane street. And, she would have had to cross over to that and walk down. So, and, she was the typical teenager. She didn't want to really walk, a lot of places.
Yeah.
So his name was DJ. So I go up to DJ's house and his mom answered the door. And, I told her what was going on. And DJ said that he had also been trying to call and text Allie and there was no response. And, so they invited me inside and we were trying to figure out, where could she be basically. And so,
Was this like a first occurrence where it was the first time she's never not checked in with you?
yes.
Okay. So, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously that's your intuition, red flag. Of course, you're going to immediately think that. I would too. I think any mother would, especially if it's so out of character of her. And, that day, did you ever talk to any of her friends? Did they see anything? Did they see her talking to anybody, texting anybody? Was she acting differently at school leading up to this? Was anything like that going on?
Well, you got to think about it. It was 9 o'clock on a school night.
Hmm.
So that night, I had all kinds of questions and no answers. But, because it was so late, I didn't want to, go knocking on everybody's door.
Uh-huh.
But there was a couple of friend houses that I did go to, but they were like there would be no way that she could walk there. But they said that they hadn't heard from her and, also said that they would kind of, call the other kids and, see if anybody else had seen her or heard from her. But I ended up going home. And by the time I got home, Mason was there. Mason was home. That's Allie's older brother. And John was there. So Mason got some of his friends and they went driving around the neighborhoods to see if they could see her walking around.
Oh,
And
wow.
then me and John also went riding around to see if we could see her and go by some of her friends' house. And by the time we all got home, nobody knew anything. And it was just before midnight and me and John decided to call and report her missing. And so we live in Harris County in Texas, and it's the largest county in Texas. So the way our law enforcement works is it's broken up into precincts. So we live in precinct 4. So we call the precinct 4 sheriff's office and one of the female deputies came to the house and, we let her in. We spoke for a few minutes. She asked if she could see Allie's room. I mean, she just stepped one foot into Allie's room just for probably not even a full minute and then turned around and walked out. And that from that moment, I feel like she was profiled. And yeah. So, I mean, the lady didn't even take a report or anything.
Are you serious?
Yeah. She walked towards the front door and she was like, y'all probably had a fight and she's with a friend cooling off somewhere. And I'm like, no, we didn't have a fight. This is not typical of her. She has never been not where she says she's going to be. And, she said, well, just call us tomorrow when she comes home.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah. And I'm like, well, what do we do if she doesn't come home? And, she was like, well, just call us tomorrow. So that began the 16 years of trouble with law enforcement.
I'm so sorry. I've had my own issues with it, and this isn't about me, but I from my own troubles with law enforcement, acting like they don't care, to treat you like that and to profile and to not care that a minor that is acting out of character didn't come home, nobody knows where she's at, hasn't heard from her, and she just walks out like, oh, call me tomorrow. Like she just assumed she'll be back, just basically assumed she probably ran away and didn't even take a report, Joanne.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't even write anything down. Yeah. And when I say profiled, I mean, like a typical female teenager. Because Ali, like me, was very artistic.
Mhm.
And I struggle saying was and is. So if I go back and forth on that, it's a struggle for me because,
I can
she's still,
understand that.
I don't know what happened.
Mhm.
But we were both very artistic. We loved to create things. And after me and her father split up, we painted her room. So she wanted to paint her room all black, and I told her there is no way I'm going to do. So we decided and agreed on black and then green,
Oh,
which one of her favorite colors was green. The other
mine
favorite
too.
color purple. So we painted over the purple and we did 2 black walls and then 2 green walls, which she called slime green. So if you think of Nickelodeon green,
Yeah. That's what color
that,
my room was in high school. It was that color.
yeah. And I mean, it turned out beautiful. I was completely shocked, and then she talked me into, of course, her favorite store back then was Hot Topic.
Oh yeah.
And, I would typically take her and her friends to the mall. And she talked me into getting day glow or glow in the dark paint pens. And, I knew what she was going to do with it.
That
Going to
sounds
paint
fun.
well. And, I told myself it's just paint. We can paint over it, so when they were all said and done, all of her friends had drew a small picture or their name or, something on Allie's walls. And, looking back at it now, I'm so thankful that I let her do that because I had that piece of her after she went missing, because that was her.
So it was kind of like it represented who she was, artsy, fun,
Yeah,
and her friends, I'm sure they wrote messages to her about how much they
they
loved
do.
her, cared about her, favorite memories, things like that. So it's almost I don't want to say scrapbook, but a representation of her and her life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So did she draw all over the walls? Like, was she a big, did she make murals or anything, or was it more like graffiti style?
It was more graffiti style. There was a footprint. I guess, well, not foot, I guess a shoe print, I should say. She had taken one of her vans and put paint on the bottom of it and stamped her shoe on the wall.
It's cool.
She used to sing a song about cupcakes, and one of her friends. That's the only piece that I left before painting over it just a few years ago. But there was a really cute image of a cupcake, and I can't remember what it says now, but yeah, there's a cupcake, and then there. Do you remember Invader Zim?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So her favorite character was Gurr, which I have him tattooed on my arm. So she drew several images of Gurr on the wall. And then she loved McDonald's. So she had thumbtacked an empty French fry holder onto the wall and then wrote something silly, on the wall next to that. And she painted her a light switch plate, which I still have that. She painted it black with some glittery skulls on it.
Sounds like I would really get along with Ali. Look, this is all the stuff I would do. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and she even did something on the ceiling. And when I saw something on the ceiling, I'm like, I said, don't do anything else on the ceiling. I said, please keep it on the walls.
What made you eventually paint over that? Was it, I mean, I obviously it was hard for you, but what made you come to that decision?
It was very hard to paint over it. Actually, my son has a family now. I have a grandson, and during COVID, they both lost their jobs. He was living in Seattle at the time, and he worked at a grocery store, and his girlfriend was a bartender, and they both lost their jobs. And I guess my grandson was probably not quite 2 years old at the time. I was trying to send him as much money as I could, to pay their bills. And finally I told him, I'm like, what, I have an extra bedroom. I said, if y'all want to move down here, you're more than welcome. And, after much on their end, they agreed. And so I ended up getting Allie's room ready for my grandson.
Oh.
So I pulled up the carpet, and that was the only carpet in the house that I had not replaced yet. Because when me and John bought this house in the year 2000, the carpet was already 25 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was that ugly, like patchy brown color. And except in bedrooms, it was gray. But I had replaced the carpet, I guess maybe a year after Allie went missing, but I didn't replace her carpet because law enforcement kept telling me that they were going to come and do forensics in her bedroom, and they never did. Finally, I just said, F it, I'm gonna pull up the carpet and put down a nice floor. So I did that. I even kept that carpet for a long time, and I told them, I said, I'm replacing the carpet. It's in my garage. If you want to come pick it up, you can do whatever you want to with it. And they never did.
And to this day, they never did?
Nope. They
Oh
never
my
did.
God.
Yeah. And so it took 2 coats of paint, but I did paint over the walls. I had to paint the ceiling. I even had to paint the ceiling fan because she had even used the paint pens on the ceiling fan. But I painted over all of it except for the one little section where the cupcake was painted. And I took a big empty picture frame and hung that on the wall where it looks like a picture on the wall. It's actually, part of the original painting. So
I see that is the typical teenage room. And I always wanted to do that. That's why I said I probably would have got along with her, because I always wanted a room that I could just take paint and just slash it against the walls and just let it stick. So I was artsy like that. And I loved Hot Topic. So I get what was going through her head when she was doing that. And I love that her room was slime green, because I'm the only other person, and I'm not just saying this, that I ever known that their room was that color. And I begged my mom and dad to let me do it. And then I could never sleep. And my mom would be like, well, maybe if you didn't have lime green walls. So
maybe if you
I love that. I love that part of it. It's awesome. I'm actually wearing a lime green shirt right now, and I didn't even put two and two together today when I went into my closet. So that's very odd. But so they never came. I just got to back up here because that just made my mouth drop. They never got the carp to this day. Do you still have it?
No, I don't have it.
I was like, so what I'm gathering just from the little bit of information you told me about the law enforcement, they didn't do anything. They just let things sit and wait. And
they did things. So let me kind of give you a rundown with law enforcement. So because the precinct is because the Harris County is so big, of course, there's different divisions. We started off with just precinct 4, they're the basic sheriff's office. And then after Allie went missing, we kept begging and begging for more help. So they moved the case over to the Harris County Runaway Division, and they had it for a little bit. And when we felt like they did all that they could, we begged and pushed for even more help. And they said, well, we can't do, forensics on computers, and we can't do things with, certain cell phone information, but the homicide department can. And we're like,
Mhm.
yes, please,
Mhm.
let's get them to come in and do what you guys can't. So we were really happy when we were told that the homicide department's going to step in and
How
come and
long did it
help.
take how long did it take for them to step in, though? Like, from the time Allie went missing until they stepped in?
It was I would say less than a month.
Okay.
So, but we already had a organization called the Laura Recovery Center. They were already doing ground searches and, knocking door to door. They already had NCMEC involved. We were running and gunning
Mhm.
basically with searches and doing everything that we could to find Allie. And when the homicide department came in, all of that stopped because they had to investigate us first. And it, frankly, it pissed me off because we were stopped basically. It's
Mhm.
like, why do you need us to go and have polygraphs, when we need to be out there looking for Allie?
Yeah.
Why aren't you looking for Allie? So we were, when I say we, I mean the family, me, Mason, John, extended family members, everybody that was close to us. Well, we were all questioned.
And
Me,
they questioned her
John.
boyfriend and her friends, too?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Coworkers, schoolmates. Yeah. They were all questioned. And me, Mason and John, we were all polygraphed. And I have no problem saying that I failed the polygraph twice.
Well, it's
Uh,
not the first time I've heard that, so
yeah. And, after finally passing it, I walked out of the office where I had to go do that. And the detective, one of the detectives was waiting for me, which I didn't know he was there. He said, I knew you could do it. And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know if you cuss on your show or not, but I'm like,
no,
what
go
the fuck?
ahead. Yeah, there's no filter on this show.
I'm just like, what the fuck? You put me through torture just to tell me you knew I could pass it.
It's kind of weird for him to just be like, "Oh, I knew you could do it." Like, did he
Yeah.
like, what was it, a game? Like, I don't it just sounds like, "Oh, we'll just make her go through this multiple times. She'll eventually pass." But, is it following protocol, or is it just they gave you the benefit of the doubt and was like, "She'll eventually pass"? Like,
Well, come to find out, it was protocol. At least that's what I was told. And I was told that the family has to be investigated and cleared first.
mhm,
And I understand that now, but
yeah,
back then it felt like a game.
mhm,
It did. Because, to be asked the questions that they asked me, like, do you have any knowledge of, your daughter being murdered? Did you in any way harm your daughter?
mhm.
Do you have any knowledge of anyone else harming your daughter? It all had to do with asking me questions if I knew if Allie was killed or not. And I mean, to be asked those questions as her
Mm,
mom, I can only imagine what they were asking John and Mason.
yeah,
And
I think I know what you're getting at, yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and both John and Mason had to go downtown to be spoken to by law enforcement. Me, they did it. We were staging the searches at a local church, and I was taken inside the church and questioned, and yeah. So I mean, that just I know it destroyed me, but to see my son and my
Yeah.
husband go through that, it broke my heart.
Oh, I couldn't I'm so sorry. But, I mean,
It's still
again, I do
yeah.
understand it's protocol. They start with the family and they have to clear everybody, but that doesn't excuse
Mhm.
making you feel like you're to blame or it's a game to them and it's not being taken seriously and they're not sitting back realizing that these questions are also causing you guys trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and, clearly it still upsets me, today.
Mhm.
But, it's even hard for me to talk to John and Mason, about what happened on those days. And, it's like, it's that unspoken, thing that we don't
Mm.
talk about.
It was talked about once and doesn't need to be, brought
Hmm.
back up for more pain. I get that. Was
Yeah.
Allie very close with her dad and brother?
Yeah. Yeah, she was. So a little bit of history on that. Mason and Allie had the typical, little sister, big brother relationship where if, he didn't include her in on things, like the video games and the toys and all that other stuff, she was going to bug the hell out of him.
Yep. I have four brothers, I know.
And, John was, the apple of Allie's eye. And when we split up the year and a half before Allie went missing, she needed therapy to
Mhm.
be able to, handle her emotions. And,
Okay, so you
she,
guys split up before Allie went missing, not after.
correct,
Okay. I didn't know
correct.
that, so that's why I asked.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get a divorce until gosh, probably maybe like an entire year after Allie went missing.
Okay.
But, that's one thing we've always been united on, were the kids. And to this day, we're still friends. And, when it comes to finding Allie and doing things with law enforcement, stuff like that, we're still united on that. And that means a lot to me because, a lot of couples, it it destroys them.
Yes. That's why I asked to get clarification for our listeners because I was going to bring that up. It does drive couples apart, unfortunately, and I couldn't imagine how much worse it would have been. If you guys, you were making the decision, but if you would have waited it out and then this, Allie went missing, and it just, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's terrible. So she was close with her brother and
Mhm.
close with her dad. She was close with you. Would you say she was more of a mama's girl or a daddy's girl?
Oh, daddy's girl, definitely. Yeah.
What and I know you. I don't know if you speak for your husband, but what was his reaction to all of this? Aside from yours, were you guys, basically a team feeling the same way, or was he more, internalizing it and supporting you, or was he out also doing what you're doing?
It's kind of changed and evolved. So at the beginning, I was a complete basket case. I'm a very shy person, and I'm the type of person, where I could have cared less if anybody ever noticed that I was in a room. I grew up chunky and overweight and shy, and John, on the other hand, was very outgoing, very outspoken. Basically not afraid to do anything.
Mm.
If he wanted to go skydiving, I watched him. I didn't go skydiving.
Okay.
And so, when Allie went missing, he was the driving force, as far as the family went. He spoke to law enforcement, and, he made decisions, and, he was my rock. And I guess it was a good 6 months maybe into Allie being missing. I went to him one day and I'm like, well, have you heard back from law enforcement, or what's happening with this or what's happening with that? And I noticed that I wasn't getting a lot of answers anymore. I would get like, well, like, no, I haven't called them, or I don't know, stuff like that. And it took me a little while, but, I noticed that, or I guess in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's going on? And he started taking steps back from the investigation. And so I guess when I wasn't getting the answers that I was asking, the questions to, I had to end up doing it myself. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to start asking, and started doing things and asking questions and making things happen. And all of a sudden, it was me that was doing everything and he wasn't doing anything. So it's kind of like a complete role reversal. And I guess I just kind of ran with it. And I think I pissed him off at one point.
Do you think he backed off because it was hard for him to keep hitting a brick wall, or it was just causing him more pain and suffering, and then being met with silence, he basically just said, "What's the point?" Or was he just letting things come as they were going to come?
It took me a while to figure that out, but he told me that he started seeing a therapist and that he admitted to me that he was really having a hard time. And so I had to take a step back myself and figure out what to do.
Okay.
Yeah. if he's not going to do it, do I do it? Do I not do it? And, some things that I would do and some things I wouldn't do. But, I started doing things and, I would always try to come to him and ask him, what do you think about this? Or should we do this? Or should we do that? And I still wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. So, and I completely get this, but I started making all the decisions without asking him. And that caused a problem, because he's like, well, why didn't you talk to me about this first? I don't remember the examples, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I went ahead and made the decision. And
I mean, you were already being met with silence from law enforcement. Now you were kind of getting met with silence from him. So you're like,
yeah,
I have to do this. Nobody else is doing this, and it's up to me. And like, that's a lot to put on yourself.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like if I didn't do it back then, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I wouldn't be going to Crime Con. I wouldn't have, established all of these special dates for Ali and other missing persons and, talking to government officials and talking to you on a podcast. There would be no way in hell that I would be talking on podcasts back then. And
it seems like every single day you were doing something, saying something, helping somebody, but focusing on Ali every single day. And I'm just astounded, and you should be very proud of yourself because a lot of people would give up. A lot of people would be defeated, and you just keep going. You're like the Energizer Bunny. I think I've been watching you for a year now and, getting to know you. And there's going to come a time, Joanne, where you get something. And I think from the conversation we had at CrimeCon, you said there was maybe one lead that came in or something, and they were looking into it, but nothing has really came about after all these years, and you have nothing to go off of except just keeping her face out there for everybody and keeping her name out there and hoping that you get some kind of answer and you find her one way or the other. But it's just every single day. I could not imagine waking up and just still not knowing with anything to go off of.
Well, I know it's kind of a cliche, but it's literally a parent's worst nightmare. And exactly everything that you just said. I mean, I eat, I breathe, I sleep, Ali. And if there are other families out there that I can help on this journey, I call it a journey because I continue, then I'm going to do it. And why not? Why not try to help somebody else? And I've come across families that basically tell me, well, I can't do what you do. And, I've even had a family tell me, well, my therapist told me, not to do this anymore because it's too stressful. And I'm like, well, I understand that. I said, but I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's different. Everybody can handle what they can handle, and that's it. And there's no right or
Yeah.
wrong. But I think the type of person you are for you and Allie, you're her mother, and you're every single day, she's still your daughter. And you're doing you're doing everything you possibly can, Joanne. Like, I don't think there's anything that you're like, oh shit, I should have done this. Like, and you're just strong. And I've talked to a lot of families. I mean, as of you've talked way more than I have, but my mom there's no way. And I'm not saying she's not capable of it, but it would just break her down so bad that she wouldn't be able to find that strength that you have to. And I'm not talking, beneath my mother. Yeah. It's just she would be so empty and she wouldn't find the strength to go on because we are her world. But Allie's your world, and some people take trauma, pain, and they just process it differently. And some people think, well, I'm not crying enough or I'm not doing enough. Nobody knows how you feel. And it doesn't mean that someone's not doing enough or you're doing too much. It's you can only do what you can do as a person. And I don't think anybody could sit back and say you didn't try hard enough. My mom would, eventually push through and do what she had to do to find us. But I just think there's different, depending on what you've been through in life, how you handle things, how you react to things. If it was me, I just think my mom would, they say when you die of broken heart syndrome, I feel like that would happen. And
Absolutely.
I'm just impressed with you because it's how you get up every day and do this. It's
well, the way I look at it is if I were to find Ali tomorrow, I wouldn't want her to know that I gave up. And that's what keeps me going. And, I have mentors that I look up to. Tim Miller with Texas EchoSearch, he says, what's his motto? Oh my gosh. He says something about his daughter, Laura. It's like, something like, don't do it for me, do it for Laura. Or, and he also says that, I just can't do this anymore. He says, I'm getting too old. I'm too stressful. And, and then he says that, I always hear Laura's voice, telling me not to give up. So, I take that and imagine, if it were, well, I can't imagine I am in those shoes, but if it were Allie, what would Allie, say tomorrow if she came home and, she found out that I gave up on finding her? I would be crushed, because if that's me, I wouldn't want somebody to give up on me, finding me. So
exactly. And I think it's safe to say that I don't think you ever have to worry about her ever wondering or thinking that you didn't do anything. No matter what answers you get, no matter where she's at, she knows. So I think, you're just doing, I think it's instinctual. I don't have kids, but as a mother, it's just the driving force. You're still protecting your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about what did you think, if you don't mind me asking, what did you think happened since the beginning? What was your first instinct of, what happened that day, what happened over time, what may have happened and still happening? Or do you have any leads or information that has driven you down one path more than another?
Well, every tip that comes in, takes me down a different path. But since that very first night, I mean, my gut told me something was wrong. I just couldn't, it's hard to explain because, every imaginable scenario went through my mind, in those first several months. And, people would come to me and they're like, well, have you done this or do you think this or, like, do you think she was trafficked? Do you think she ran away? Do you think somebody took her? Do you think, I mean, all kinds of questions. And as soon as somebody would ask me something new, that was stuck in my head.
Of course.
And it was like just a tornado of things swirling around. But, the one thing that I always come back to is I know she didn't leave on her own. And I know that somebody took her. But I mean, for the first several years, we looked into trafficking. We've been to different states. We even had a TV show approach us called Last Seen Alive. At the time, we were working on tips.
Why were there tips in Ohio?
We had people, because back then Facebook was like social media. And I think we had done a show called Nightline, and somebody called in a tip saying that they thought that they saw her in Ohio and at Columbus, Ohio. And what they told us it was too coincidental, that this girl went by Alley Cat and said she was from Texas. And, she had a chicken pox scar between her eyes and, all this other different things that were like, oh my God, that's just too much similar, to our Alley. We have to go and look into it. And so the TV crew, followed us down there, and our private investigator at the time, Amber, was with us, and she was working with local law enforcement on this tip. And eventually they did, after we were done filming, of course, they did end up arresting the girl that everybody was calling Alley Cat. And she looked nothing like Allie.
God.
She didn't even have blue eyes, and she had olive skin. So
they just went probably because of the name, and they just that's terrible.
Yeah. But for the
remember hearing you talk about that on one of your TikToks that you made.
Yeah,
But when
Yeah.
you were going down the road of Columbus. I grew up about 2-3 hours from there, and there's a lot of trafficking that goes on in that area. So when you said that at
Yeah.
first, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sorry that you could almost get your hopes up, and then
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we did uncover, a pretty large trafficking ring between
hmm,
Ohio, Florida, and Texas.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I have learned and seen so many horrible things these
Hmm,
past 16 years that I don't ever want to know, but
yeah.
because I've had to investigate it. I've had to, go through pages and pages and pages of back page images, people saying that, oh, is this Allie? Is this one Allie? What about this one? Is this one
Wow.
Allie? You know, and I'm like, well, what color are her eyes? Oh, well, we can't see her eyes. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I'm not going to know what Allie's breasts look like,
hmm
you know?
I think the most recognizable thing about Allie are her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very unique and very just my mom said a word about them, and it was so like, "Oh, that's it." Now I can't think of it, but they're just piercing and big and full of light, and I think, like, if anything, if you're searching for somebody, that would be the first thing when it came to Allie that I would recognize. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's if somebody didn't have her eyes, I wouldn't assume that was her. That's just me,
Yeah.
though, but, she does. She had beautiful eyes.
Thank you. She has her daddy's eyes. Yeah. Well, my sister has blue eyes too, but I have
Oh.
brown.
Do you and I don't know, you don't have to answer this, but do you think you know what happened and you're just nobody's giving you the lead, or you have no idea at this point because you've exhausted everything that you could think of?
I still have no idea. I know. And when Anna came and started helping on the case, she re-interviewed a lot of Allie's friends and
Mhm,
even some friends that had never talked to law enforcement before. And, we feel like that was very fruitful.
mhm,
And, the information that she got, she turned it all over to law enforcement. And, it was like going back in a big circle again. We give
mhm,
them all this information and you hope and you pray that they do something with it. And, we don't know if they did anything with it because they never give us any feedback. And I understand that they don't have to give us feedback and they can lie to us if they want to. And it's legal and it
but they give
drives
you
me
nothing, though, like,
fucking wall.
having nothing is, I think, worse than anything.
Ugh, it drives me insane, literally. I mean, I have been so stressed out. Sometimes I break out in eczema.
Mhm,
I have heart palpitations now. You mentioned the broken heart syndrome
mhm,
earlier. That shit is real.
mhm,
And everybody handles stress differently. And I feel like I haven't slept in 16 years. And when I actually sleep, I pray that I dream about Alex.
mm. Do you dream a lot about her?
No, no, I
Aw.
don't. I mean, I have
Mhm,
before, but it's been a very long time. I've had dreams that, I was in the food court in the mall and saw her sitting at another table. And then, I've had dreams of her walking through the front door,
mm,
and I wish I would have more dreams, but, some of her friends every now and then they'll contact me and, tell me about a dream that they had. And it makes me jealous that they had a dream about, at least her friends are still thinking about her.
yeah. I not to go off subject, I have that in my family where my mom, my grandma, my brother, we dream of people who have passed, and they come to us and they tell us things, and sometimes I know people pass away before anybody knows, and
Yeah.
it's just a feeling, it's a dream I have, and some people would get mad at me. And I said, "Well, I'm kind of in my eyes, I'm like a portal, and they know that I receive it, I'm open to it." And sometimes my friend passed away, her brother was very mad at me because she kept coming to me, but I think sometimes they don't, if you believe in this, they don't visit because they don't want to upset you even more. And sometimes those dreams can feel so real that when you wake up, you really think you were with them. And sometimes I think they stay away to protect you. And that's my internalization of it. So, however you internalize it is your thing. But I do that. So I reach out to people and say, hey, like I had this really weird dream last night. Does this mean anything? I mean, it's even happened with Gabby Petito's parents. I've dreamt of Gabby and I've never met her, but I'll
Yeah.
say things and they're like, what? What? And I'm like, it's one of those things. But because you just said that you feel like you haven't slept in 16 years.
Yeah.
You're probably not getting that deep sleep to have those dreams, like.
I'm not. And part of it could be menopause too.
Did you say menopause?
I did.
Okay. Well, speaking of, I just had this conversation with somebody last night. I said, I think I'm in perimenopause. And I was giving them all my symptoms. They're like, yeah, it sounds like it. So I'm like, great, this is fun. So
Yeah, girl, just wait.
fun being a woman. Something that we're laughing a little bit. Let's talk about a little bit of lighter things on who Ali was, or what was her favorite band, what kinds of food did she like, what did she want to be when she, became an adult? What was her aspirations and, beliefs? What were her morals? Tell me stuff like that.
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I'm sitting here in my bedroom and I'm looking at a quilt on my bed that's made of her t-shirts. And one of my best friends, Bridget.
Yeah, I met her at CrimeCon. Yeah, my mom's name's Bridget.
Yeah. So Bridget came to me and she said, because I think I had posted on Facebook one day, I have all of Allie's clothes. I don't know what to do with them. And Bridget knows a mutual friend from school that makes quilts. So I gave her Allie's band t-shirts. So I'm looking at Green Day and Gwen Stefani, because I took her to a Gwen Stefani concert. I'm looking at Korn. Who else is on there? Metallica. A couple
So
Metallica.
she's a heavy metal alternative rock type of girl.
Yes. And then on the other hand, when it comes to music, she loved the Beatles.
Okay.
One of her favorite movies was Across the Universe.
Oh, I love that movie.
And
awesome.
She loved, and that brings me to her journaling. So she loved to write. She wrote poems, she wrote music, she wrote stories. She loved Across the Universe so much that she wrote down every single song in one of her journals. And I didn't know that about her until after she went missing, because journals are supposed to be private.
Yeah.
And I respected that when it came to her journal. And after she went missing, I went through every single one of them and spiral notebooks and sketchbooks and anything and everything. Even her schoolwork, she drew on. Even if it was just little doodles. I'll have to send you some pictures of some of her doodles, but one that stands out is. And I don't know, because it's a whole page written, but in an ink pen, she drew a picture, but in between all of the pieces of this picture is a story. And it starts off, there was a little creepy house with a little creepy girl and a little creepy something, but it stands out because it was just, I think she made it up. I don't think that she got it from anybody, because I had never heard of it before. But, it just stood out to me because I'm like, wow, my daughter created that. And so back to, other things. So this quilt I'm looking at, it also has her Girl Scout shirts on it. It has some of the t-shirts and jerseys from when she played softball. And she did a choir in school, and then there's a t-shirt from the Corpse Bride on there. So anything Tim Burton, we both love anything that Tim Burton does. And so on the closets, she has 2 closet doors in her bedroom. One year I had given her a Nightmare Before Christmas calendar from Hot Topic, of course. So when that year was over, she tore off the pages and she hung them up in different spots of her room. So she had Nightmare Before Christmas on there, and then Twilight. She was in the process of reading all the Twilight books. I know all of them weren't written yet whenever she went missing, but she liked the dark, creepy things, just like me.
Just like I'm telling you, I would be really good friends with her.
Yeah,
love it.
Maybe that's why you get along so well. I mean, but then on the other hand, she was like, I think I'm going to change the way I wear my clothes next year, Mom. I'm like, sure, you don't have to wear black clothes all the time.
Yeah.
So she wanted to change her image, but she didn't get to. She didn't have that time, and just like so she went missing in April. So that summer, she was 16. She was going to be getting her braces off. She was going to be taking a driver's education course. And then also her art teacher had given her information to do a week at an art college on the East Coast.
Oh.
So, we both of us, when you have kids, you kind of live vicariously through them, and you get to do things that you never got to do when you were a kid. So, I wanted to see her go to that art college because I wanted her to use that talent that she had inside of her. And, and she wanted to have kids. She talked about having tons of kids all the time. And, and it's until Mason had one child, I never thought I was going to have any grandkids. So I was, blessed with one. And of course, he is absolutely spoiled, and he knows who his Auntie Allie is.
Oh. I think I saw a photo yet you posted with him standing next to a portrait somebody drew. Is that
Yeah. So,
okay.
yeah. So locally to Houston, the Houston Police Department, their forensic team put together an art show, and they did age progression photos. So we were blessed to have Allie be a part of that. So I took my daughter-in-law and my grandson to the art show with me. And yeah, that was me and him and his Auntie Allie in that picture. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have one grandkid. I have a few nephews and brothers, so I'm sure one boy is keeping you on your toes.
Yes. Yes. He definitely keeps all of us on our toes.
That's good though. So with everything, so it's been what, 16 years that you said?
Yes.
What are the updates in the past 2 years to a year? I know, again, like when we spoke 2 weeks ago at CrimeCon, you were telling me a little bit about a lead. I believe maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you're not allowed to talk about certain things, and I get that. I just wanted to know if, like, have you heard of anything? Have any names been brought up? Have any other, I know years later, kids from high school could have a thought that just passes their mind randomly and be like, oh, I should tell somebody this. I mean, that's the importance of re-interviewing people because things come back. So has anything like that happened? Has anything else new or resurfaced in the past year?
Not really recently. So I was probably talking about, so I was getting ready for CrimeCon. I was making things to give away. I was making stickers and making bookmarks and stuff like that. And one of my best friends was over. Her name is Sharon. I've known her ever since we moved into this house in spring because we would all go see her to get our haircuts. And, she would cut me and Allie's hair. And we just got really close after Allie went missing because she was a pretty important part of keeping me going, basically. Helped me with fundraising and just in general support. So we were at the kitchen table, and she had just recently moved back from out of state. And so we were spending a lot of time with each other, to just catch up. And she's like, I can't believe that there's still nobody, that has any other information and nobody that saw her besides, the two kids off the bus and my sister. And I looked up at her and I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, my jaw had just was wide open. I'm like, your sister saw Allie that day?
Yeah.
She's, Susie saw Allie that day, and, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, and you're just now telling me? And she's like, no, I told you this a long time ago. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And
That's
she's
something
like,
you would remember.
well, you would think, but I do have, but, and the way she explained it to me, I'm not surprised that I didn't remember, but, and, I lean on John a lot for those early memories, the trauma, what do they call it? Trauma brain or something like that. But there's a lot of gaps in my from, certain little details that I have no recollection of because of the traumatic experience. But yeah, she's like, she's like, I told you Susie saw Allie that day. And, after I kept telling her, no, you didn't, no, you didn't, no, you didn't. She's like, yes, I did. She's like, Susie saw Allie because she remembered that it was odd that there was a girl walking down the street because it was a very warm day. She's like, it stuck out to her because she was wearing a hoodie. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I remember that information? I'm like, do you know how many shows and podcasts that I've done these past 16 years? And I've never mentioned, anyone else other than the kids seeing Allie that day. And I'm thinking to myself, she doesn't listen to my podcast. And she does not listen to podcasts, and neither does her sister. So I'm texting, I'm texting John the next day because I'm still trying to process in my own mind, why didn't I remember this information? And, we came to the conclusion that, we didn't think it was important back then. And it is now because, we were thinking that nobody saw Allie except for the kids on the bus. Nobody saw her beyond our neighborhood. And for me, this one little piece of information is very, very important because it tells us that she made it out of the neighborhood. She made it one more block. So before we were thinking that, we don't even know if she did make it out of the neighborhood. We just know that she turned to walk out of the neighborhood and then nobody saw her. But this information tells us that she got, one full block out of the neighborhood. So
do you think that maybe somebody in a car that she knew stopped her, or maybe it was just a complete stranger? I mean, obviously, this to me, and again, this is just from what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it safe to say that she probably got in a car with somebody, or somebody forced her to get into a car? Actually,
well, either way, she got into a vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, we have proof of it, but how else do people get places?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if somebody came along that she knew and offered her a ride, I would say, heck yes, that she would take the opportunity. If it were a complete stranger, I would like to think that she would put up a fight and kick and scream and yell and all that stuff. But I mean, until you're in that situation, in the circumstance, you don't know what you would do.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like the burning question. Was it somebody that she knew?
So to go back, I know you said she worked at Burger Barn. If I'm not mistaken, one of the videos I watched of you said that they investigated her job, and you said they closed down shortly after, correct?
Yeah, the Burger Barn, they closed 4th of July weekend that same year. Yeah.
And they investigated everybody that worked there, the boss and everything?
They told us that they did, or whether they did it or not, I don't have any proof of it.
So with the street that she was walking down, Joanne, was it very populated, lots of traffic, or was it more of a rural area that she was walking on?
It's kind of in between. So when you turn off of Cypresswood Drive onto Treshwig, so you're going from a 4-lane street onto just a 2-lane street. There's one house on that street before you get to my subdivision. There's some trees. There's down closer at the intersection. So you've got the hair salon and a Subway on one side, and on the opposite side would have been where the shopping strip is, where the Burger Barn was. And then so you go down towards my neighborhood. You're going to pass the daycare that she went to, which was supposedly the newest, latest spot where she was seen. And then you have a small empty field, and then a neighborhood that would go to the right. So on the left, you have a church. Actually, you have you have 3 churches that are fairly close together. And then you have a small business called the Bow Zone. And then what is it called? Like not a mud district, but there's a field where our subdivision It's chain link fence, and there's a small building in there along with a cell phone tower. That's the last tower where her phone pinged, by the way. But that's at the corner entrance to our neighborhood. So if you keep going, the street doesn't lead out anywhere, but it's a long street. Kind of a long winding street. There's not a subdivision back there, but there's houses on it. And there's also an outdoor shooting range called Carter's Country. And so the only people that would have gone down that street are the people going to the outdoor shooting range or going to someone's house back there. So, I mean, you would have school buses, you would have people going back and forth to the shooting range and people that live back there. So busy, but not busy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense because that kind of sounds like what I'm picturing. It makes sense in my head.
On what time of day, you know?
Yeah.
People leaving for work, of course, in the mornings, it would be really busy. And then, if people were off on that day or whatever, going to the shooting range and then school traffic. So
this is 2010. Did they ask for, camera footage from any of these businesses or places along?
Nobody had surveillance cameras back then except for one gas station that was catty corner to the intersection that she would have walked through. And John went to that gas station and they burned him a copy of the surveillance for that day. And we both reviewed it. And if Ali had made it to the intersection, we would have saw her walk at the very tip top of the camera footage, but we never saw her. So me and John, we both agreed that, we needed to give this to law enforcement so they could look at the vehicles that were going through the intersection. And back then it was the Harris County Homicide that had the case. No, Harris County Runaway Division that had the case. And we didn't find out until months later that they lost that footage. Yeah.
I always wonder, you hear this all the time. It's like, how do you lose footage? Like, how does it just go missing? Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really aggravating. So, and you said, I know you had search parties, so you've searched all this area. I mean, you've had volunteers, I assume, go out and look in these woods and these roads and behind buildings, and there's been absolutely nothing.
Nothing found. So I would stay at Command Center in the church parking lot, and every now and then, somebody would text in a photo to Bob Walcott. He worked for the Laura Recovery Center. And then, he would, whether it be a necklace or a piece of clothing or jewelry or shoes or something, I was there so that, I could verify whether it was a piece of not. And they found some really strange things, but nothing of Ali's.
Yeah. And you said that when was the time that her cell phone last pinged? And did you ever get all those records that day to see who she was talking to?
Well, I got all of those records because it was my cell phone plan. And so, I was able to see the phone numbers that she was texting and calling. So I still have AT&T, but AT&T back then, and I had somebody at CrimeCon that wanted to argue with me about this because they asked me. And I told them that AT&T did not back up their data, meaning we had the date and time stamps and the phone numbers, but no content of the text messages.
Okay.
And, AT&T, they were even subpoenaed eventually by law enforcement, but they didn't back up the data. And, somebody at CrimeCon wanted to argue that with me, saying that, no, that's not right because everybody had their data backed up. And I'm like, trust me. In 2010, AT&T.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I think people sometimes and I don't know who this was, but in general, I'm talking about a general population here. Sometimes people lose touch of reality and forget that the technology that we have today did not exist 16 years ago. It has moved so fast. We've adapted so quickly that's why I even asked about surveillance cameras, because I'm sitting here going, wait, did those exist back then? I mean, it was
rare back then. I mean, nobody had home security and, you had buzzers that, would go off on your doors, but there was no cameras. I mean, unless you were the mega rich people, that paid ADT or whatever. but nobody had Ring. There was no such thing as a Ring doorbell back then. Just businesses would have
Mhm.
surveillance. Not even all the gas stations had surveillance back then.
A lot of the time, these businesses just put up cameras to place fear, and they don't even use them. It's like,
Right.
why even have them installed? You could be saving lives if you just turn them on.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. And then, so what time of day did her phone last ping?
Right after she got off the bus. So that would have been between 2:45 and 2:50 ish that afternoon.
So it definitely happened from my point of view that it was daylight.
Mm-hmm.
Why else would her phone go off? You said she's on her phone all the time.
Yeah.
And it just was in a blink of an eye and nobody saw anything. So like nobody saw a car, nobody saw a person, nobody saw anything just out of the ordinary. It was just like she was walking and then all of a sudden she just vanishes.
Yeah.
How does that how does that must really, I don't even know how to ask this. How does that, how do you process that? How do,
Uh,
like, I don't
yeah. Well, I think I read your mind. Yeah. How do I process that? I mean,
know.
I don't know. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, and I talk to my friend Robin all the time, because her daughter is missing also, Kristen Galvan. But it's like people don't just disappear. And I was talking to her last night. I'm like, don't they? I'm like, I think we're kind of living proof that people do
Yeah,
disappear. I mean, but they've got to be somewhere.
that's it.
And that's when that phrase, somebody knows something comes
Yep.
into play. And we pray every day that that guilty conscience starts screaming at them and they eventually say something. But
As a
until that happens, I'm going to keep doing anything and everything I can think of.
Do you think that she's far away, or do you think she's maybe in the same state or anything like that? And I don't know how to ask it without you taking it the wrong way. Like just in
No,
general, where do you
I've been
think
every
maybe?
question.
Okay. Well, from my side, it can be a little uncomfortable because I don't like to upset people or ask the wrong question. So
Yeah.
if something, if she's alive, and we all hope she is, do you think she's just
Mhm.
really far away? And unfortunately, if she's not alive, do you think it's possible that she could be around your area still? I
Well,
hate asking you.
it's been 16 years, and I have thought of everything.
Mhm.
I know that she's not just out there having fun, because I know that that's not the type of person she is. And, she wouldn't have left her dogs here. She was very passionate about her animals, and I know she loved us. So, people like to tell me their theories all the time, or maybe she met somebody and, she's just living her life. I'm like, yeah, you can think that,
Yeah,
but I
no.
know. And, then sometimes, I always compare my case and story to other people's cases. So, example, you hear of a case of a homeless man, that really didn't know who he was. And then, his family found him, and it was a medical episode. He had been missing for a few years, and, they finally found him in a homeless encampment, so things like that happen. And then, you hear stories of, Elizabeth Smart
Mhm.
and JC Dugard and,
Mhm.
the three girls in Ohio.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, well, that would make sense, that Ali was being kept and, was unable to get away and be
Mhm.
free. And but then it's like, well, who would that be? We don't have basements here in Texas because we flood, But, and then I'm thinking, well, maybe she's not in Texas anymore.
Mhm.
She literally could be anywhere in the world. And, and then, people like to put the thoughts in my mind. We live in Houston, and I don't live in Houston. I live in Spring, but I live next to an international airport. I live less than 10 miles from Interstate 45, which will take you all the way north into other states. I live close to Interstate 10, which if you go left, you go to California. If you go right, you go to Florida.
Mhm.
So it's a very hard question to give one answer, but my gut just tells me that she didn't leave on purpose.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
no.
if she was trying to be the deceitful 16-year-old typical teenage girl that wanted to have an evening of fun, she didn't intend to not come home.
Yeah, no. And if anything, she would have been with friends or her boyfriend or
Hmm.
not just with strangers that she didn't know and gone all hours of the night. It just doesn't
Right.
sound
Right.
right at all. And you said they investigated her boyfriend. Did he have any information that was useful that, they cleared him? But I'm sure it was hard for him too.
It was hard for him. Now, her boyfriend was DJ, but he was a very new boyfriend at the
Okay.
time. It wasn't her first boyfriend, but I don't know what number he was. I mean, she didn't have a lot of boyfriends. She just had a lot of friends in general. But there is. I feel that and again, looking at other cases, I what's that case? I can see her Skylar niece.
Uh-huh.
She was killed by her best friends, you know? So, I mean, that scenario also comes to my mind, when I think about Skylar's case, But then, it's been 16 years, you would think that somebody would have heard something by now,
Uh-huh.
and somebody would have squealed by now. So literally, I have no idea.
And that's the hardest part because you don't even know which way to go, up, down, left, right, diagonal, because it just sounds like you have nothing to work off of except the last time she was seen, the one footage that you had of surveillance, and the time that her phone shut off. That's literally all you have. There's nothing
That's it.
else.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you can even follow a direction.
Right.
That you must be spinning in circles, like just like, and of course, I would think, I would compare it to every case too, because the fact that you don't have any information, that means anything is possible, and that
Right.
just opens it up for
Exactly.
a million other things. And I, I'm first of all, I'm sorry that the police did this. Again, that's not the first time I've heard this with anybody. It seems a common trend, especially when they're minors. Their first assumption is, "Oh, she ran away." That just happened here in Wilkes-Barre, PA. And then they found her because of her aunt, and she never had a history of running away. So it's like, I don't know why they constantly jump to that all the time. Like, oh, you have to wait so many hours before you report somebody missing. How about just do it? What's the worst that's going to happen? You have to do some extra
Yeah.
paperwork like that. That's my thing on it. It's like, so just file it as soon as somebody reports it and be safe about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They would have to do the paperwork. Oh, boo hoo. You'd have to do your job. And
Yeah,
then
right.
it
Save a
did
life.
end up being run away, then yay. Throw the file in the trash.
Yes. So the whole, we got to wait. Why? Why do you don't have to wait. You're choosing to wait.
No,
And
yeah. And it's
there,
not the law that you have to wait.
no, nope. So the whole, oh, you got to wait 24, 48 hours, whatever. And that time, that's the most like crucial time. I think they say after 72 hours, the chances of them coming home is less likely. But maybe if you went out and did your job within the first hour, you would have saved yourself 72 and found a lot of evidence that first. Like, I get so mad, and Joanne. So if it sounds like I'm angry, it's because I am. I get so mad, and
Get angry, girl, because I'm angry.
it's pure selfishness, stupidity, and laziness. And if it was these, and I just had this talk when I did a speech the other day at the domestic violence thing. If it was those cops' daughters and sons and aunts and uncles and parents, man, they'd be right on it. But because it's somebody else, it's just thrown in a box, and it pisses me off. There was a cop in the audience while I was saying this. I was like, 90% of them are a waste. They're just a waste and with a badge.
Yeah.
And I don't care, because it's the truth. Like, look at all the people we meet in our true crime community. And if you listen, most people listen, it's the same situation that people deal with law enforcement. It's the same thing over and over and over. So that when's there going to be like, enough is enough? Oh, you have to wait so long before you do an Amber Alert. Just put it out there. Like,
Right. Well, Allie, it's the Amber Alert. Amber Alerts do not all have the same rules for different areas. So in my area, you have to have physical evidence of a crime. Somebody has to have witnessed something. So Allie did not get an Amber Alert. And as a matter of fact, I was going to talk about that today at Houston City Hall, but I couldn't drive down there because we had a really bad weather, some flooding today. But I missed my opportunity to be able to support our local digital billboard provider. So Clear Channel Outdoor, they have a digital billboard around Houston, but not in downtown Houston. So when there's an Amber Alert, they can activate their digital billboard and put that child's face on there and the information. And I was going to go down there and talk to the city council members about why digital billboards would be very important to have downtown and how it could have, possibly helped my case, because Allie's been featured twice within these 16 years that she's been missing. She's been featured twice for National Missing Children's Day. And each time she's been on those billboards, except for downtown Houston, we've had tips come. And when they do that for National Missing Children's Day, they feature a new child every year, but they've been successful in recovering some of those children.
Oh, wow.
And, so I kicked myself because I didn't drive down there because I let, and you'll see my Facebook post later. I let my fear of the bad weather stop me from driving downtown, but I missed my chance to talk about Ali to city council and how important the Amber Alerts are and the digital billboards. And I'm sorry that I didn't mean to go off on that rant.
Listen, everything you just said is very informative, and everybody should hear that.
Yeah. But I missed my chance to talk about Ali, and I just feel that if Ali would have had an Amber Alert when she went missing, we could have her home. And because they labeled her a runaway, I mean, we missed so much time, and the resources and the help. I feel like if they would have taken us seriously, then we would have her back.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. It all comes back to that first woman that came in your house, stepped foot in her room, and didn't do anything. It comes back to her shoulders, and it comes back to them not taking the rug and, trying to get DNA or evidence from that. It comes back from them not following up. So whose shoulders is this all falling on? And I don't want to blame one specific person, but the first police person that came through your house is the one that should have filed the report and been on it immediately. And it should be a thing across the entire country. An Amber Alert every state should have the same protocol, there should be billboards that, how you're on TV and then they have breaking news and they interrupt your show. Well, these damn digital billboards that I used to sell in advertising, they should be interrupted like that when things like this happen. So, John Schmo down the road selling rings can hold off for 20 minutes or a day because somebody's missing. Everything. Sorry, I used to be in marketing, like advertising. Everything should be breaking news, just like TV. And you can't sit there and say, well, there's no room, we can't afford it. No, put it up there and just put it up. Like I have a degree in child and family services, and I wanted to help kids with loss and trauma. So this is why I get so heated, because I am an advocate just by passion, because I always feel like I have to be the voice, because other people don't speak up, and a lot of people don't like me for it. And I don't care, because somebody has to say something. And there's absolutely no excuse that your billboards can't be interrupted 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day to show Allie's face and all the other people in that area. It's just, you can't have one business donate one of those billboard companies can't just put one somewhere for free and put these photos up. Like, the selfishness in this world is disgusting.
Yeah. Well, I've been in a public place before, and everybody's phone started going off, and it was an Amber Alert. And I heard somebody say, oh, it's another Amber Alert. And
I would punch them right in their face.
It took me everything not to walk over to that person and say something to them. It made me angry and sad and all kinds of rage.
You know what, Joanne? They say that until it's their kid. And then everyone is supposed to stop what they're doing. And it's...
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there's so many things right now.
There's been a few cases where celebrities, their child has been missing. What was one of them? Winona Judd. And I heard about it all the way here in Texas, but she was found the next day. Donald, what was his, Logue or something like that? I mean, his transgender child went missing, and I saw it posted all over social media, and, it ended up where, they wanted to be missing on purpose, but it's still the fact that it happened on the other side of the country, and I heard about it.
Yeah.
And parents like me, we beg and scream for that kind of attention. And, we're just nobody. So
I want to interject for a second, if you don't mind, on this, because I have this conversation with everybody every single day. Why do you scroll past people who have missing flyers? Why do you scroll and not just share real quick? Because one set of eyes could solve a case and bring somebody home or give somebody answers. Why are people so against just hitting the share button and putting something important out in the world? But they'll share a meme that has no effect on the world, that serves no purpose, but they can't bring themselves to share a missing person's flyer.
I've had that conversation a lot of times with other families that have a missing person. And the one thing I always compare it to is that, a missing child or a missing person in general is just, some people just can't deal emotionally with that. They would rather share a missing cat or a missing dog post than a missing person post.
And you know what? I'm going to say something off record, but on record, because it's been on the news. And again, I'm not trying to use my own. Sometimes when I relate to things, I just interject. There was a thing, a lot of people say, why did Gabby go, why did she hit national news? And they blamed Gabby's parents for that. And Joe got on the TV and said, that's not our fault. That's the media's fault. That's on them. And every single person should get the same exact attention that Gabby got. And that's what they're out trying to do. And it is. He's absolutely right, Joanne. Like, it's the media. They pick and choose what they can run with for a headline, for engagement and, ratings.
And it depends on what's going on in the world, actually, because when Ali went missing, it was right after the BP oil spill. And that was all consuming, the news.
Yep.
So it was like a missing child was not important because of a catastrophe.
And this is what gets me so hot and heated with the media. When I worked in radio, I would ask them, to talk about a missing person in my area, the DJs. Oh, we can't talk about that. Why? Well, because our program directors in other states give us what we are allowed and not allowed to talk about. And I said, you know what I would do? I'd become Howard Stern and I'd make it my own show. I said, because I'd be damned if somebody asked me in a local community as a radio DJ with an influence of hitting 100,000, listeners a day, that I can't for 5 seconds take a time of my day and say, please be on the lookout for so-and-so. Or if I was running a TV station, you make every single person pay $1,000 for a 15-second commercial during the Super Bowl, but you can't put up a commercial of a missing loved one for free. Like that's what I'm getting at. Like they pick and choose, and they can't do anything out of the kindness of their heart because there has to be a price tag attached to it.
Exactly. It's all about.
I can go over this all night. And this is just, from my side, I can't even imagine the rage that it puts you in, because that's your daughter. So, and times that by all the missing kids in the world and all the parents dealing with this every single day. And I'm pushing for you and Maggie to be speakers at CrimeCon. When they asked me the survey back when I bought Orlando badge, they said, who do you want to speak? And I put you both down. I put it in the CrimeCon group with 10,000 people. I messaged Shane Waters privately because I know he talks to all them stuff about that. I started to do that GoFundMe, guys. I have a GoFundMe to get Joanne Lowitzer here and our friend Maggie Phillips. Her daughter's life was taken in 2004 in Oklahoma. She drives the caravan to catch a killer. These women deserve to be heard. They deserve to be at CrimeCon. They deserve to speak. And I told CrimeCon this last week when they sent out their survey. I said, these women come every single year. They spend every dime they can to raise awareness. You need to give them the respect of the time of letting them get on stage. Like I love CrimeCon, but it comes a time where what matters needs to be on stage, not something that happened 20 years ago, which it's important, but not when they're I don't know how to say this without sound. When Mark Aragos is getting on stage trying to defend his client who's sitting in prison, there's more important things like Ali Missing that should be on top.
You're not the first person I heard that.
Like you pick him, and I get it, Joanne. Everybody has a job. Everybody's entitled to an attorney. The guy's that's his job. But this happened 20 years ago. It's not like he's out there trying to help Lacey. He's trying to prove Lacey's husband's innocence when your daughter's missing, and they won't give you the stage to talk.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm pushing for this. And I'm going to keep blasting that GoFundMe. We have a year and a half. We'll get you there. People have been donating. I think it's up to 500 now. If I looked the other day, and,
Oh,
yeah, and people are texting me and they're like, "I'll donate soon." So like it's got traction. And I know Megan from
yeah.
Silver Lining of Hope is going to start sharing it. She asked me if I wanted to band with her, and she'll start putting it out there, and we can put it on her foundation. She's amazing. She's the one that solved her own mom's murder, and at CrimeCon she talked about it with Nikki. But I'm trying. I want you guys to be able to go and not have to worry about flights, food, and hotels.
Yeah. Well,
Booths, if we can
I
help
would
you pay for
love
the
to be.
booth.
Yeah, I would love to be able to, to reach more people
Mhm.
and tell Allie's story. And, I think it was I didn't get to go see any speakers, because I was manning the table, but
Yeah,
my friend called, saw Kelly Siegler,
yeah.
and they sent me pictures because they showed Allie's flyer up on the big screen. I was so happy.
See, Joanne, that's all it takes. I remember you telling me about Kelly at CrimeCon. See, that's all it takes is someone just having a good soul to do something.
Yeah.
It took. Why can't they all do it?
Yeah.
God, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. And I started a T-shirt fundraiser. I don't know if you saw me. I posted it earlier this week, and my sister gave me the idea, to go ahead and start fundraising now for Orlando for next year. And
Uh-huh.
the T-shirt is. I chose the picture of the T-shirt that I wear most of the time, where it's the black T-shirt
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
the
the
one I wanted at CrimeCon. You said you didn't have any more.
oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The one where Allie's face is kind of colorful with the purple and the blues and stuff like that. And so the campaign is basically take Allie with you this summer.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact wording, but basically, it's like um, take her with you when you go on vacation. Take her with you when you go to the grocery store.
Yep.
Just wear the shirt wherever you go.
You're a walking
You know,
billboard.
yeah.
Sorry, my mind always goes to advertising. That's where it
I
goes, but
know.
that's all it is. They wear a shirt with Allie's face, and somebody could be in a grocery store and really say and be serious and be like, "I just saw her," like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's all it takes. And it's like talking to a wall to get people to do the smallest thing of act of kindness, and
Yeah.
it's so maddening and frustrating. And I want this year to be the year for you and Miss Maggie, and just something. Not
And I say it was such a pleasure being at the table next to
oh,
Maggie. Uh, because I met her for the first time in Denver, and I really got to know her at CrimeCon this year, and she's such a kind soul.
I think it would be amazing to have you both on stage together. I think that would be a room packed full of people. I think that would be one of the biggest highlights. And you think that people don't know about Allie or Miss Maggie, that thinks that people don't know about Brittany, but everybody I talk to says they know who you guys are and they know who your daughters are. It's not
Well,
who's that again? Who's that again? It's not branding. It's just you guys have put yourself out there and put your daughters out there so much. It's important. It has caught on. And a
yeah.
lot of people did tell me, they're like, we would love to see them on stage. And I said, well, then you need to tell CrimeCon. Like, you can't just sit here and be like, oh, I want to, and I'll tell you more. Everybody knows I love Nancy Grace and Joe Scott Morgan, and everybody knows. Yes, we want to
Well,
see them, but we want to see you guys the same way, just as much. And I think if they put you two on stage or one at a time to tell both of your stories separately, the rooms are going to be
mhm.
packed. I'm not even going to doubt it. And people want to hear you. But think
Well,
of
do you?
the 7,000 people that have come to CrimeCon that don't stop at your table. They don't have any idea.
Yeah. Well, you know what Nancy calls Allie? Girl Scout Allie.
Yeah, I think who was I? Did you tell me that? Somebody told me that.
I might have because we were when Nancy had her. I
I
guess
love
it was
Nancy.
every night. When she was HLN, I think
Okay.
way back in 2010, she had us on there twice,
Okay.
and called her Girl Scout Alley. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is some insider information. When I was at CrimeCon, I talked to one of Nancy's assistants who put me in
Mm-hmm.
touch with their producer, and Nancy's producer reached out to me last week to follow up on the local missing girls case here. So when I hear back from him, I will say, hey, here's another one for you. And I will send them this podcast and everything about Ali and everything you've done, because I know Nancy knows about her, but it doesn't, and I know Nancy's booked and she, I know it, but it doesn't hurt for anybody to post a photo on their socials when they have a mass following.
Yeah.
Just one day, and I think Nancy would. I really do. I'm not, I love her, but I'm just saying in general, it's, CrimeCon, I think would be good if they started posting every single day, not just leading up to CrimeCon, maybe post a missing person every single day leading up to CrimeCon so we can see these faces and learn about them before we even go.
Yeah.
That's not just post the speakers, post the people that the speakers are there talking about.
Yeah. They have such a large following, and they're such huge influence.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if they realize it or not, what their true potential could be and how many people they reach. I mean, I'm sure they know how many followers they have.
They have like 300,000 followers, and every single day from now until Orlando CrimeCon kicks off, they could post the missing person.
Oh, they could post a different one every single day and not show every missing person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking like that's a start that they could do. These are just feedback ideas I've been thinking about that I'm going to send them. And again, no ill will. I love CrimeCon. They're doing great things. I just want to give some suggestions of what I think could enhance it, especially for people like you. A lot of people think that when we say we're going to CrimeCon, they think we're dressing up as famous serial killers and standing in line and paying for autographs. And I'm like, no, we're there to advocate for these families and victims, and we actually invest our time and we care about them, and we want to help them.
When I talk to people that have no idea what CrimeCon is, that's what they think it is.
Yep. And I really wish we called it Crime Conference, because that's what it is. It's a conference. We go, we learn, we're educated, and it just has that stigma. And I'm really trying to get that, out of people's minds. And when I start explaining it, they're like, oh, that sounds really cool. And I'm like, yeah, we're not like weird, serial killer followers. We're not there for them. We're there for these families. Like, and I just want you to know.
I have one of my best friends that, because that's what she thinks it is. And my other best friends that come with me, and we're like, no, that's not what it is.
I tried to prepare my mom before Vegas, because I told her how great Denver was and she really would have liked the environment. And I said, Mom, because she goes to those conventions, like horror conventions and all that stuff all the time. I'm like, this is not what you think it's going to be. And even Cheryl McCollum was telling me to tell my mom, like, this is not what you think. And I tried telling her and she got there. She's like, this is really neat. Like, I really enjoyed this. This is a whole different perspective than I thought. And I'm like, this is what I'm trying to get people, understand. But I just want you to know, like, your voice and Ali is just as important as anybody else that gets on that stage. And I'm supporting you 100%. You need anything, I'm going to help. I'm really trying to, I really want to focus more on Ali. I want to help Miss Maggie more. I'm trying to do things in my local community, and it's time. It's time to make some changes. And everybody knows me. I will say whatever I think. I don't care if you like me or not, and I will push Ali's face out there as much as I can.
That's what's wonderful about you, because, there are people like me that are, afraid of what other people think when we say something. And then if it weren't for people like you, we would just probably be stuck.
Well, you're not stuck with me. And I will tell you why I'm the way I am. Being in abusive relationships, I was silenced for a long time. And recently I got my backbone back from before my first abusive relationship. And I will not stay silent to make other people comfortable, because I did it for myself for so long. I'm not doing it again. So I will. And I was always that kid in school that if someone was afraid to ask a question, I'd be like, what is it? I'll ask. I'm always been that person. And I don't care what people think, because I know what I'm doing is making a difference. And if someone gets, like, look at Nancy Grace, if someone gets mad at what I say and they know it's the truth, then they probably should listen if they're getting that mad about it, because it's triggering something inside of them. So if what I say and I believe in is making you mad, well, that's you. Like, that's on you. So you can either hear me and try to understand my perspective. You don't have to agree with me, but at least try to have an open mind and understand where I'm coming from. And then we'll talk about it. But I'm not here like pushing things down people's throats. But when it comes down to having a digital billboard on a highway or a free commercial on the TV of missing children, like, I think that should be a priority over 12,000, vape commercials. Like, I just, that's I have a lot to say, and I don't know where to start to make things change. Like, I would be one of those people on the Capitol steps, like just being loud, but I don't even know where to start. But I have all these ideas, and it's just like, if I'm thinking this, other people have to be too. And why aren't the people in these, seats of power not thinking of these things? Why are they so complacent with not doing things better? And, whatever the outcome is with Ali, whatever the outcome is, she should be a priority every single day. And you should have answers. You should not be going this long without anybody. And those cops should not have failed you like they did. They basically just said, she's a runaway. She's not, to me, she's not a big priority. She'll come home eventually. And then they forget about it and go on. And that is enraging. And as a mother, for you to be able to hold yourself back, I'd probably be in jail, because I'd be down there screaming at them every day. And that's the flaw I have with being so passionate, that sometimes I go too hard and then I get myself in trouble. But Miss Joanne, I would love to do another podcast with you, because I feel like there's a lot we didn't get to discuss. So if you're okay with that, I would love to continue more. I just thank you for what you do. Thank you for letting us know a little bit about Ali, the journey that you've overcome the past 16 years, and that you're continuing to do every single day, showing up for Ali, because you're a mother and somebody has to. And a lot of us true crime people are right behind you. So you're not alone. I'm going to continue pushing the fundraiser. I'll find your link for the t-shirts, and I'll order one and start pushing that out, because I want one. I was like, when we left CrimeCon, I told my mom, like, I really wanted one of those shirts. I said, I'll reach out to her. So it's funny that you did. Somebody did message me the other day and said, does Miss Joanne know that you have a GoFundMe up? I said, yeah. She looked at it. And she's like, oh, because I saw she started her own. I thought maybe she got upset. I'm like, no, she would definitely not be upset. I don't know who it was. Somebody named Kim that talks to you. I don't know. But I'll do my best. But yeah, I definitely want to do another episode and dive more into maybe some things that maybe I didn't hit that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk for another 2 hours.
I could too. If you want to keep going, I'm all for it. I don't want to keep you if you're tired or anything, or if you do want to do a part 2, I'm definitely down for that. Because I know there's so much to this, and there's so much to what you're doing and you're going to continue to do. And if there's anything that comes to mind after this that you want to be like, oh, we need to talk about that, we will set up an interview whenever is good for you. And if it's just you wanted to talk about the Amber Alert, or you just want to talk about Ali, or you want to talk about, maybe the changes from her story, what changes has it made on the world, or anything like that. This isn't going to be a one and done. I gave you 2 hours. That's it. No, we will do this as many times as you want. It's not a problem. I don't care if you call me tomorrow. You're like, I need to talk. Can we get on a podcast? We'll do it. Like, I don't care. So don't ever be afraid of like, oh, I have some updates, or I forgot to talk about this. Just let me know, Joanne. Like, I would love to do it. And I hope that I was respectful enough with my questions. And I hope that you got the information out there that you wanted to. And before we wrap up for part 1, because I feel like there's going to be many to come, what's one thing that you want people to know about Ali? What's your favorite memory with her, and what do you want to see change in the next year?
Oh, gosh. Let me think. My favorite memory of her, I guess, I know it's kind of general, but, it's her art. So I'll try to make this quick, but it's not my favorite memory, but it's one that sticks out.
Okay.
My grandmother had passed away probably within the year of this memory. And my dad gave me some of her furniture. She gave me, and I still have this dresser. So she gave me this beautiful dresser, and it was in my bedroom. And it's one of those, I made sure that I kept it dust free and polished. And, it was, the wood is so beautiful. And Ali was probably between 2 and 3, maybe. And she had taken a ballpoint pen and she started to carve an upside down A in the top of it. And I got so angry because, she scratched. It looks like a V, but I know Ali was, she was trying to draw at the time. Her favorite thing was to color. And I don't know why she chose the very top of this dresser, but it was, it looked like she had scratched it like 4 or 5 times, trying to scratch her name into the top of this dresser. And, I still have that dresser. And, every time I pass by it, I put my hand on that scratch and, I'm thankful now that it's there. I know that's a weird memory, but I don't know. That's just something that I think about now. And yeah, but I don't remember what the rest of your question was.
It's okay. We'll wrap it up. I know. Well, listen, thank you for sharing Allie with us. Thank you for sharing everything. And I will send this to you, but it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. And I will continue helping you fight to find Allie. And if you ever need anything, let me know, okay?
I sure will. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for taking the time to
Oh, you're
talk to me,
welcome.
to me cry
We'll,
and
we'll keep doing it, I promise.
okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sweetheart.
Bye.
All right.